Okay, now that we've gone through the definition of what a strategy, tactics, and techniques are, as well as the definition of an archetype is, let's go ahead now and get into the definitions of all 5 different archetypes. I'm going to explain briefly kind of what they are. Now, even though this tape is dedicated more towards the charger archetype in this tape, I'm going to go ahead and kind of describe what each archetype is in kind of somewhat detail, so you kind of have an understanding in here. And as we go along through this series, we're going to go through each archetype individually and go through the defenses to each archetype. I believe going through the defenses for each archetype first is going to help you much easier to recognize, not only help you defend against these types of fighters, but also recognize each one much more easily, so you can learn how to become each archetype when you need to. Okay? Alright, so there are 5 archetypes. Alright, we're going to classify them into these. There are chargers, runners, sluggers, blockers, and synergists. Alright, chargers, runners, sluggers, blockers, and synergists. Alright, now, like I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, each archetype has their specific advantages and disadvantages. Not one of them is better than the other. Okay, and I also am going to reiterate that it does not matter. The archetype is not defined about what technique they use. Okay, it does not define what weight class you're in. They're not defined by what gender or ethnic background you are. It has nothing to do with it. It is your primal responses to life and to threatening situations. It's how your subconscious mind is wired to deal with, you know, the fear of survival. When your fear of survival is in jeopardy, all right, you're going to unleash, or you're going to respond in a certain way in order to stay in control and stay in survival. Okay, so I want to make sure that everybody understands that, because a lot of styles can dictate a certain archetype, and which is fine, but doesn't mean somebody is that archetype. Remember, we're trying to find out who the real person is under that costume. Right? So everybody can put on a costume and look like a cowboy, but they're really, really the devil, all right, underneath. So what you're really looking for is their real responses in a fighting situation, not their trained responses. All right. Okay, so the first archetype we're going to talk about is a charger. Right? Now, charger is defined as a relentless, aggressive, explosive attacker that is going to use momentum and a lot of inertia. In other words, he is going to try to explode at you and hit you as fast as possible and as many times as he can. All right, so he's somebody who's going to kind of put himself into a sprint position, if you would, and he is literally going to try to get there as fast as he possibly can without any warning sign. Okay, whether it's through punches, whether it's through kicking, whether it's through grappling, it really doesn't matter. But he is going to try to explode at you every second he gets in here like this, right? He's going to try to get there first in here, and whatever, punching here and come in and grapple with you, it doesn't really matter. If it was kicking in here like this, he's going to try to get there really fast in here, right? Does not necessarily mean he's going to hit you hard. Likely he's going to, but he is literally just trying to making sure that you're on the defensive immediately. Okay, so we consider him the most dangerous, and that's why we're starting with him, that archetype first in this tape, because the time frame in which he comes at you is so fast that a lot of times people are not ready for that aggression. Right now, he could come at you with training techniques. He could be trained, or he could come at you raised-based. Right, so he could be out here like this in here, and he could just throw some artless technique in here like this, and just try to get there really, really fast. Or he could throw, a perfect punch in here and accomplish the same thing. But the point is that he's going to try to beat you to the initial attack as much as he possibly can. All right. Now, the other thing that the advantage of a charger does is that he's usually going to be relentless. Like, he'll repeat a lot of his patterns and stuff. So if he can't get you on the initial action in here, let's say for example I come at him and he sidesteps me like this, a charger is going to keep on coming in here as fast as he possibly can. In other words, a charger has good footwork, a very predatory like footwork. They kind of move in like right angles, if you see what I'm saying here. So if I move and he steps in here like this, a charger can change direction real fast in here like this, and he moves again back that way, and he can keep on coming in here like this. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the charger itself, but a lot of times they can move in very straight lines and then cut corners real fast to keep the hits on. Remember, they want to hit continuously until they just pummel you on the ground as many times as they possibly can. All right. So that's kind of a basic definition of a charger, right? Trying to use their momentum, trying to use their aggression, and try to explode it actually as fast as you possibly can. So we consider him the most dangerous because at least the initial stages of a fight. Now remember, this is MMA specific, so you may know your opponent, you may know that he's a charger, and he may be a charger as a grappler, he may be a charger as a striker, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, it's what he's trying to accomplish as most of the time when he's under duress. So if I go at him in here, let's just say that he's a charger in here, right? And I deliver a technique at him like this, and and I scare the crap out of him here. He just may fly right back at me in here like that, right? Let's say I escape it again in here. He may repeat the same action. Maybe I try to do something else in here. He tries to do the same thing in here. All right. So the charger is somebody that we definitely want to cover first and foremost because he presents a lot of problems for most people. Okay, now that we've gone through the basic definition of a charger, let's go ahead and get to the next archetype. The next archetype is defined as a runner, and a runner is the exact opposite of a charger. A runner is defined as somebody who's going to hit and move and hit, or stick and move, and like in boxing, stick and move, stick and move. A lot of times I say run and hit and run, because what their primary thing is that they're trying to not deal with force on force at all. So obviously a charger doesn't mind a collision in here like this, right? As long as they're causing damage in here like that. Chargers are usually real relentless, and they're not gonna, if they get hit in the process in here, unless you knock them out, they're usually gonna keep on going in here like this, right? So charger's real relentless, keeps going forward, very explosive, throws punches and bunches, strikes him, a lot of strikes at one time, and usually he's not going to stop him until you knock him out. Well, a runner is the exact opposite. A runner is going to stand further out, and usually what ends up happening with a runner, and this is not all the time in here, but a runner a lot of times is going to try to draw you in or bait you into something in here. And if he doesn't like what happens to him, if he comes at me here, a runner's just going to move immediately in here like this. Usually, so they're going to runners rely on a lot of footwork, and as he comes at me here, a lot of body evasion in here like this. And a runner can a lot of times hit you on the way in as they kind of create a luring type of look at for you in here. So they prefer that they stay way out here like this, and usually they're going to be very elusive in here with their body, like especially in boxers who are good runners. Some of the greatest boxers of all time are runners, like Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Robinson, Roy Jones Jr., people like that, right? A lot of those were all runners. If you watch them in here, they usually had a very good sense of distance and timing in here, and they could actually, put themselves in a position where it looked like they were open, and as you came in here like this, right, boom, right, they would hit you, on the way in here like that, and they would just obviously fight backwards in here, right? They rarely ever went forward in here. They would stand their ground and try to get you to come at him in here, right, and hit you and move like this in here, or they would just simply dance around the whole time and stay away in here. But a runner is going to basically always leave the threat. He does not want to deal with any force-on-force situations. So when you're looking for a runner, look for a guy, somebody, as soon as you move at him in here, he's going to step back immediately in here like this, and usually he's fleeing, not necessarily because of a coward-like thing. He could be coward, but usually because they're trying to catch you on the way in. So if he's a charger and I'm a runner, right, and he comes flying at me here, if I can get him out of position in here like this, a lot of times a runner is going to catch you on the way in here. They prefer that you come at them like, like a bull and matador thing, and they just yank the curtain away at the last second, okay? So they're very, very elusive, and they can be one of the most dangerous to deal with in a technical term if they really know what they're doing, because they're just never quite standing still. A lot of times you'll see, what I've seen is, as they're on their toes in here like this and they're moving around, a lot of times they'll drop their guard a little bit for more deception in here, because it creates openings and also creates it creates the ability to stay more relaxed, and they can hit you at weird angles. So not only does it think, okay, he's thinking that I'm open now, but what it's actually doing in here, right, is it's basically kind of saying, okay, here, I'm open in here, and as you come in here like this, wham, in here, and they hit you at a weird angle in here like this, right? Their arms are kind of, never all over the place, right? So that doesn't necessarily mean that's always what a runner's going to do. I mean, a runner can have his hands up like normal and stuff, but the bottom line is that they're going to be very elusive in here, and as you come at them in here, right, they're just not there in here like this. Okay, so that's a basic definition of a runner. Okay, the third archetype that I want to discuss briefly is defined as a slugger, or also known as a puncher. In boxing, a lot of times they say puncher. We call it a slugger because we think of somebody who's going to swing a baseball bat in here. Now a slugger is defined as a KO stylist. He's somebody who's going to try to stalk his opponent and try to get as close as he possibly can and try to take you out in one shot, if not two. Right? Now a lot of people get this confused with the charger. They are similar, but they're very different. Right? So, like I said before, the charger is somebody who's going to, put himself into a sprint position, an upright sprint position here, right? Explode at you in here real fast in here like this. Okay, you notice I just kind of use my locomotive to cross the floor, right? A slugger is not going to necessarily explode at you like this. A slugger is more going to be loaded and set in here in the ground because they need to use the earth to push off of a little more. And a slugger is usually going to try to, if this is a fighting situation here, he's going to try to get close to you in here like this, and as much as he possibly can. And then what he's going to try to do is he's going to put all his weight, into one big hit in here like this, right? And a boom in here, right? If you think about Mike Tyson was a classic slugger, right? So he stood here, he got as close as he possibly can. What he a lot of times did is he kind of kept his head, moving, slipping offline in here like this because he knows his head's a standing piñata in here. And what a slugger is going to try to do is take your best punches. A slugger is going to trade with you. He wants you to trade, right? So he'll literally stand here and he'll figure out how to, if you throw a punch at him in here, he'll try to move out of the way and really crack you one in here and hit you, try to hit you with big shots. A lot of times sluggers throw a lot of big hooks, and big crosses in here. A lot of times they can get in a lot of haymakers like this in here. But their point is that they're going to try to cut your range down in here, because if he tries to stay away a little bit, I'm going to try to get close to him as I possibly can. And a slugger is going to literally sit here and wait, and he may sit here and probe at you with his jab a little bit, but he's going to try to throw a big shot in here when he can. All right? He's very durable and he's aggressive, kind of like a charger. But you can see the difference is that a slugger, in order for him to hit hard, just like if I'm going to try to hit a home run, right, I have to be anchored to the ground. I can't be bouncing around here like a runner, right? So a slugger has to kind of load himself and be set. And like a really technical one, a lot of times will hide behind their guard more, right? They can hide behind, a diagonal shield or something, or a horizontal guard like this. They can, stay in real tight here, but they're going to try to get, crouch down in here and keep their head kind of moving in here like this, so you can't, hit them straight in here like this, and they'll just, try to haul off and try to throw big punches in here like this, right? And they will create a lot of swarming strikes in here like that if they can, if you're not, threatening them, all right? Now, they also, on the other hand, usually will take a punch to give one. So if he'll take your best jab, your best arm punches in here, right? Bam! Get in a trading contest in here, boom! In here like this, right? Sluggers a lot of times don't have any defense as well. Their defense is to swing at you. Okay, so a slugger again is somebody who's going to try to stalk his way into you in here, and and get as close as he can here, because he's literally sitting like a loaded baseball bat in here. A lot of times he's going to bob and weave in here. He's going to stay tight behind his guard to kind of protect himself if he's more intelligent, and he's going to try to create a lot of leverage into his strikes in here like this in here, wham, wham, wham like that. And if he has to take a shot to give one, he will in here like this until you knock him out. All right, so that's the basic definition of a slugger archetype. Okay, now we've gone through the charger, the runner, and the slugger. Let's go on to the fourth archetype. The fourth archetype is what is called a blocker archetype, or more of a counterpuncher. A blocker archetype is somebody who uses a lot of controlled motions and stuff. He's very technical, doesn't like to move a whole lot. He likes to be very stationary, and he would prefer, once again, kind of like the runner, that you come at him first. He wants you to initiate most of the time. And a blocker, a lot of times, will has very good timing and counter striking. Like, he can mess with your timing. He can get you to play this game back and forth and create these illusions that something is happening when something else is going to happen. All right. Now, a lot of people are blockers. A lot of them are, and because of the nature of, hence the term blocker, defend yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean block per se. It could be, but a lot of times people are going to try to protect themselves first and strike back. So a blocker would be something in here where if I put myself into a lot of times what they'll do is they'll put their guard into a reactive cage or a position here where they can minimize how the attack lines that you take. All right, so if you think about this, if I put my hands up in here like this and he throws a technique in here, right? I know he has to come down the center to hit me. I know that. All right. He may not know that. He may think, well, hell, I don't know where this guy's open. And so he may just choose to pick that line in here. A blocker a lot of times can hit back immediately in here like that, right? So, and so the other options are, is if he can't go down the center, he's going to have to go around somehow, right? And I know that as well, right? So you think of block, hence the term block in there. Right? That necessarily doesn't mean a blocker is going to do that. A blocker could be, as he throws a punch, a blocker could, slip and hit in here, do something like that, right? Or, throw a punch in here. A blocker could snap his head back and use evasion in here as well. The point is that he's going to defend himself first and then strike back. And usually he's going to throw punches at you like probing techniques. So if he's defending, he's a blocker. A lot of times, or if I'm a blocker, I'm sorry, he's defending himself. A lot of times a blocker can throw these probing, techniques at you in here like this and get you to react in here and buy into an indirect attack. Right? So a blocker has really good timing and a sense of distance, a good keen sense of distance and awareness, where they can kind of are ready to pick off your techniques by putting themselves into a reactive guard. So as he throws his techniques in here, right, I can kind of just pick these things off in here, and I can hit back in here, right? And a lot of times a blocker doesn't like to move a whole lot, so they're real good at controlling the range. So if you kind of move out a blocker a little bit, he's going to slide back just a little bit. Not like a runner. He's not necessarily going to run and leave the seam, right, like a runner. He's not necessarily going to come in and try to charge at you in here, but he wants to stay just right at your doorstep in here, where you can't hit him, but he can hit you, right? A lot of times, also a blocker has very good, a lot of good indirect attack, a lot of fakes and feints, where they can literally throw their punches out here. They can kind of create the illusion, that you may get hit here and hit you somewhere else in here, like that, right? So they're really tricky, a lot more technical. I would say they're probably the most technical out of all the archetypes. They have a lot of control. They're usually not going to overcommit. And a lot of times they're very, very tricky with their timing. Okay, so that is a basic definition of a blocker archetype. Okay, the final archetype is defined as a synergist. Now, a synergist is technically not a type of archetype. He's not one specific one. A synergist is somebody who learns through training and practice, whatever style or system they seem to train in. They learn how to use all the archetypes, any one of them, and any strategy and tactic and technique accordingly, and link it onto their archetype based on the demand for it. So a synergist may have his own archetype for whatever reason. Like, for example, you may be a runner by nature, but with enough practice and stuff through learning how to defeat the archetypes, how to become the archetypes, you learn how to figure out that you may need to use a piece out of the Charger's concept for a moment or two, right? You may have to use multiple archetypes in a fighting situation. Okay, so a synergist is not something that you're that you're born with. It's something that you train or inherit through practice and a lot of understanding and fighting, like I said, whatever style or system you're in. So even though you can have your own archetype, your nature, most people are kind of, at least 2 of the archetypes. You can kind of see here that like a slugger and a charger are kind of real similar. They both have some similar traits. They try to get their job done a little differently, but they have the same idea. They're kind of both aggressive. They both want to, get the fight, end the fight ASAP. They're usually tough, durable. They're going to come at you as soon as they possibly can. You think about a blocker or a runner, they're kind of similar, right? They're both kind of counter fighters. They both rather have you come at them, even though a runner uses more footwork and evasion. A blocker is kind of more stand the ground and try to pick off your techniques and hit you back. They are very similar. So whatever archetype you are, right? If you could be 90%, a charger and then 10% a slugger. Most people are not like charger runner. I've never seen that. It doesn't seem to make any sense psychologically. If I can't hit if I can't hit him fast in here like it's a charger, I may rethink this in here and I may try to hit harder the next time in here like that, right? But the point is that the synergist can use any one of the archetypes to his advantage when he needs to, and he doesn't have a biased opinion about it. So that's something I like to kind of keep separate in training. And as we go through this video series, we'll kind of go through more, kind of like intellectually and in kind of drills and how to kind of sparring and how to kind of become a synergist. All right, now that I've gone through the basic definition of all 5 archetypes, all right, and kind of their basic what they're trying to do, their common traits. All right, I want to go ahead and kind of reiterate here that the whole goal, even though this video series is based on the 5 archetypes and about how to use certain strategies and tactics against how to defend against each archetype, so you ultimately learn how to recognize them and ultimately how to become them. The goal is, in the end, is how to become the synergist. And like I said before, that the synergist is somebody that you manifest through training and through understanding, knowledge and fighting in general. Okay, so as you go through these strategies and how to become, defend against these archetypes and how to become them, whatever archetype you seem to be, you want to learn how to perfect your archetype. First figure out what archetype you are, learn how to perfect it. If you don't know maybe you know about this kind of information already, but if you're an up-and-coming fighter, or maybe you are a current fighter and you're looking to, expand your arsenal more, your knowledge more in your fighting career, and this video is probably going to be really helpful, because the overall goal is to become unpredictable in fighting, is not to pick a specific style and try to force it in every bout you go into, because styles are beatable. They advocate one thing at a time. They have a lot of personal flair on it, and the goal is to become, well-rounded. But well-rounded means is that you need to be very diverse in a lot of, in these strategies and tactics. Remember, strategies and tactics is a very complex section in martial arts, and it goes into more than just the archetypes themselves. All right, so now that being said here, let's go ahead and get into the defenses against the first archetype, which is what we call the charger.